Hi there, today I want to walk you through exactly how I use grainy shading within Adobe Photoshop to create illustrations just like this one. I'm going to walk you through the tools, techniques, and step-by-step processes that I like to use to create these gritty, grainy shaded textures within my illustrations. By the end of this class, you will have your very own grainy masterpiece. But before we get started, hi there, my name is Natasha Polizenko, otherwise known as @Natashka on all the platforms, and I am a New York City-based illustrator and consultant. And this is actually my very first proper YouTube video, so if you like it, please be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe so I know whether or not you all want more of these tutorials or not. Okay, so first and foremost, let's get some of the basics out of the way. So it should go without saying, but you need some sort of computer or tablet. If you have a Wacom, an iPad, that's great. You'll be able to use that for this class, but if you only have a laptop, that's totally fine too. In fact, that is what I usually use, and everything you see here today in this class will be created on my Mac using my trackpad. Okay, now when it comes to software, you will need Adobe Photoshop for this class. If you wanted to really follow everything step by step, that is. I believe some of the techniques may be able to be translated into other raster-based programs like Procreate, but just so you know, I'm going to be digging specifically into Photoshop. And to help you dive in and start playing with these grainy textures immediately, I've dropped a link in the description below where you can download my free project files. So once you've downloaded, you will see 5 different Photoshop files that you will be able to pick from and use as a base to test and create your grainy textures. So please feel free to use these as you're following along in this class. Otherwise, you can also create your own base shapes or illustrations. I usually create these base layers in Adobe Illustrator and save them out as a Photoshop document. If you are all interested in a more detailed Illustrator to Photoshop workflow tutorial, please let me know in the comments. And lastly, and most importantly, let's talk about grainy brushes. Now, for this class, you could really use any grainy brush that you like. There are a lot of options out there, and it really comes down to which one helps you achieve that look you're going for. I personally have used a bunch of brushes in the past, and actually I ended up creating a custom brush for myself so that I could achieve a very specific effect and look. Now, you do not need to dive into the world of custom brushes at this stage, especially if you're just starting out. But if you like, I will also post the link in my description below to purchase my brush if you're at all interested. Okay, so hopefully you've got a computer, Photoshop, and some sort of grainy brush ready to go. Now let's dive in and get started. Okay, so I want you to open the project file from the download in the description and select whichever one you would like to follow along in this class with. I'm personally going to be using the Apple to demonstrate. Okay, once we have this file open, we want to set up our brush. So if you already have a brush you want to use, you can bypass this part. But for those of you who have downloaded either my brush or another brush, here is how to get it set up. So you'll want to navigate up to Window, and in the drop-down, select Brushes. You'll see that I already have the brush loaded, of course, but I will load it again just to demonstrate. And you'll want to open your downloads once again just to make sure that you have unzipped the download file. You should see a .abr file. Okay, so now head back over to Photoshop, and in your brushes panel, you want to head up to this little button here with the 4 lines and go down to Import Brushes. Once a window opens up, you'll want to select the .abr file and hit Open. And it's that easy. Now your brush should be loaded and ready to go. Alright, before we get any further on the brush, I do want to take a second to talk about layers. Now, this particular piece doesn't have a whole lot of layers, so they're reasonably easy to find. But when you find yourself starting to work with pieces that have hundreds of layers, things can get a little complicated. So a very quick way to select your layers is to hold down the Option key on a Mac and just click on the layer. This makes jumping between layers so much easier and saves so much time. Okay, so now what I want you to do is select a layer that you would firstly like to focus on applying a grainy texture to, and just simply create a new layer right above it. Okay, once you've done that, let's get back to talking about your brushes. When it comes to applying a grainy texture, there are a few parameters that you can play with to get different effects. So firstly, you can manipulate the opacity. A lower number will give you a lighter, more buildable brush, while full opacity will give you a darker, more bold brush. Another parameter is size. A larger brush will give you a more gritty and obvious grain, while a smaller brush will give you a softer, more fuzzy effect, if that makes sense. Now, you can go in and change the size of the brush manually up here. But another time-saving tip is to hold down the Control and Option keys at the same time and move your cursor from left to right. Get in the habit of doing this. It comes in so handy, especially when you're working on more elaborate pieces. Okay, right now you're probably wondering why I'm not drawing right on top of my layers, and this is because when we hover our cursor over the line that separates the layer we've been working on and the base layer below and hold down the Option key, which I think is the Alt key on Windows, you will get this little symbol pop up that looks like a square and arrow. Once you see that, click it. And you can see that the layer we drew our grainy texture on is now applied to the layer below. And this is so helpful and great, especially as we start to build up our layers. Now you can see that everything you draw on this layer will be confined to the one below. And it keeps your lines super neat and super clean, even when you zoom in. And the great thing about it is that you can just keep on creating more and more layers, doing the hover, option, click thing again, and it will also be applied to the original layer beneath, so you can go in with more color and texture. Okay, this is looking ridiculous, so I'm going to hide these layers for now, but I'm going to create a new layer and apply it to the ones below. Now, I want to select a color that is slightly darker and deeper from the vibrant red that I have on the apple. And using that, I'm going to start to apply a bit of shading to try and bring this apple to life a little more. Now, another parameter that can create interesting effects is the blending mode. So going up here and selecting where it says normal and starting to scroll through to see what we think looks good. Now, I really like how this subtract mode is looking, so I'm going to go with it for now, but it is looking a little dark, so I'm going to push the opacity here a little bit. And then I just continue this process, playing with opacity, the brush size, and blending mode until I like how everything is looking. Another super crucial tool is the eraser, and you'll also be able to use my brush for this. It's so helpful when it comes to getting detailed effects, and I recommend turning down the opacity while you do this erasing just so you get a slightly more diffused effect. And of course, don't forget to give the other layers love. Again, you want to select your other layers and build up your grainy textures. This can take a while, especially if you're working on more complex pieces. But have fun, take your time, and remember that with practice you will get better and be able to create these more quickly and efficiently the next time around. Alright, so that's it. By now you should have a solid understanding of how to create grainy textures in Adobe Photoshop, and I cannot wait to see what you create. So whether you're team apple, banana, pumpkin, beetroot, tomato, or you started from scratch with your own artwork, be sure to tag me on Instagram or TikTok at Natashka. I would love to see your work and share the love. So that's about it. I really hope that you found this class helpful and insightful. And again, if you found value in this, please be sure to like, subscribe, and just leave me a comment to let me know. It would be really great to know if people want more of this sort of content here on YouTube. Also, if you vibe with my teaching style, be sure to check out my course, Illustration Style Academy. I'll link it below for you so that you can read all about it. But basically, it is a course that I created to help illustrators with finding and uncovering their unique and recognizable personal illustration style. Alright, so that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you over in the next video. Bye for now.